The distress beacon blinked its monotonous rhythm across the barren landscape of Kepler 442b, a planet designated as moderately hostile in the Galactic Academy's survival training protocols. 30 days had passed since the training vessel's catastrophic malfunction had scattered 42 cadets across the planet's surface, each equipped with nothing more than a standard emergency kit and the knowledge they'd absorbed in their first semester. Lena wiped the soil from her hands and surveyed her work with quiet satisfaction. Around her, neat rows of terrestrial vegetables pushed through the alien dirt, tomatoes, beans, and potatoes thriving in their carefully constructed beds. A crude irrigation system, fashioned from salvaged equipment and hollowed indigenous plants, delivered water from a nearby stream. She'd even managed to construct a small greenhouse using the transparent panels from her emergency shelter, extended and reinforced with a framework of local wood. The communication device on her belt chirped. She tapped it and Casper's voice crackled through the speaker. "Lena, you there? I'm picking up increased activity on the rescue frequency. They might arrive within the week." "Copy that," Lena replied, kneeling to check the moisture level in the soil. "How are your rations holding up?" There was a pause. "I'm down to my last 3 packets, you?" "I haven't touched mine in 2 weeks." Another pause, longer this time. "What do you mean you haven't touched them?" Lena smiled, plucking a ripe tomato from its vine. "Come to my coordinates, Casper. You should see this before we leave." An hour later, Casper emerged from the tree line. His Valorian scales dulled from weeks of inadequate nutrition. Behind him trudged 3 other cadets, a Clothi, a Drexian, and a Telmorian, all showing visible signs of the month-long ordeal. Their emergency rations were designed to sustain them for exactly 30 days, and it showed in their gaunt frames and sluggish movements. They stopped at the perimeter of Lena's camp, and their jaws went slack in unison. "By the twin suns," the Quilathi breathed, her antennae quivering. Is this a farm?" Lena stood from where she'd been harvesting beans, brushing dirt from her knees. "Welcome to Camp Lena, you all look hungry. Want some real food?" The Drexian, whose name was Vex, stumbled forward. "But the protocols state we're meant to ration our emergency supplies and signal for rescue. You built agriculture?" "Well," Lena said, gesturing for them to sit on the log benches she'd constructed, "I did signal for rescue. On day 1, actually. Same as everyone else, I assume. But waiting around for 30 days eating paste seemed inefficient." She handed Casper a wooden plate, carved from local timber, loaded with roasted vegetables and what appeared to be some kind of stew. "The soil here is actually excellent once you understand its composition. A bit high in iron, but nothing crop rotation can't handle." Casper took a tentative bite and his eyes widened. After weeks of flavorless nutrition packets, the explosion of taste was almost overwhelming. "This is incredible. But how did you—" "The seeds, the knowledge." "My grandmother was a farmer back on Earth," Lena explained, serving the others. "Before she joined the colony ships, she made sure I knew how to grow food. Technology fails, Lena, she'd always say. But if you know how to make things grow, you'll never starve." She ladled more stew into bowls. "As for seeds, I had vegetables in my rations. It seemed wasteful to eat them when I could plant them." The Telmorian cadet, who had been silent until now, spoke up in her melodic voice. "But the regulations for survival training specifically state that cadets must demonstrate resource conservation and patience during rescue scenarios. Building all of this." She gestured at the farm, the shelter, the storage units filled with preserved food. "Isn't this against the spirit of the exercise?" Lena settled onto her own bench, bowl in hand. "The exercise is about survival. I survived. Actually, I'd argue I did better than survive, I thrived." She took a bite of her food, chewing thoughtfully. "Every other species in this galaxy seems to think survival means enduring until rescue arrives. Humans think survival means adapting until rescue becomes optional." Vex looked around at the improvements Lena had made to the campsite. There was a rainwater collection system, a food storage cellar dug into the hillside, even what appeared to be the beginnings of a pottery kiln. But what if rescue had taken 60 days, 90? "Then I'd have expanded," Lena said simply. "I was already planning to tap into that grove of sap trees. The resin is naturally antiseptic, perfect for preserving food or treating wounds. And those cliff birds, their eggs are edible. I've been observing their nesting patterns." Casper shook his head in amazement, accepting a second helping. The instructors are going to lose their minds when they see this. Let them, Lena replied with a shrug. I followed every safety protocol, maintained my beacon, logged my activities. I just didn't limit myself to the expected behavior. She looked out over her farm, where the alien sun cast long shadows across the rows. My ancestors crossed oceans in wooden boats, crossed continents in covered wagons, crossed space in tin cans, all because they refused to wait for perfect conditions. They made their own perfect conditions. The Kulathi cadet leaned forward. Could you teach us? I mean, before the rescue ships arrive? Lena's face lit up. Absolutely. First lesson, composting. See all that organic waste from your rations? You've been wasting valuable fertilizer. When the rescue ships finally descended on day 33, delayed by a solar storm, they found 42 cadets alive and well. 41 were exactly where their beacons indicated, waiting patiently in their emergency shelters, rations depleted, ready to return. The 42nd cadet was harder to locate. Her beacon was active, but the location had been transformed so thoroughly that the rescue team initially thought they'd landed at an established outpost. It took several minutes of confused scanning before they realized that the small agricultural settlement, complete with multiple shelters, cultivated fields, and a water management system, had been built in 1 month by a single human cadet. Commander Thralix of the rescue vessel stood at the edge of Lena's farm, his multiple eyes blinking in astonishment. Cadet Lena, your report states you accomplished all of this alone in 30 days with only standard emergency equipment? Lena, who was in the middle of showing 3 other cadets how to properly harvest root vegetables, looked up and smiled. Yes, Commander. Though I should note, the soil here is really exceptional. I've written up a full analysis. This planet could support a significant agricultural colony if anyone's interested. The commander looked at the rows of thriving crops, the irrigation system, the storage facilities. Then he looked at Lena, still energetic and healthy while the other cadets looked like they'd barely survived. Humans, he muttered, making a note on his datapad. Of course it was a human. Casper, standing nearby with a basket of freshly picked vegetables, grinned. That's what HFY means, Commander. We don't just survive, we build. As the rescue ships prepared for departure, Lena took one last look at her farm. She'd already transplanted seeds for the next generation of plants, left detailed instructions carved into wooden tablets, and marked the best water sources. Whatever came to this planet next wouldn't start from zero, they'd start from what she'd built. That, she thought, was the most human thing of all.